So that was my thought too, Sammy, is, a lot of what was going on with Jaylen Carter, like one of the reasons the Bears avoided him was because of incidents that happened on Thursday night. And I saw somebody tweet this out, and I'm sorry, I didn't dig out the tweet. I don't think that the person who sent it is important enough, but somebody said, listen, this is why you can't win with Jaylen Carter. And you're like, well, the Eagles did win with Jaylen Carter. Like he won a Super Bowl about 7 months ago. Like it has happened. He has won at this level. But I think that the overarching point is, obviously, if he goes to an organization like the Philadelphia Eagles, he will find a way to be successful. And I don't think anybody would argue that. However, this is the kind of player that if he had gone to the Bears, and I think about the dysfunction of the Bears over the last couple of seasons under Matt Eberflus, this would have been really bad. Like of all the things that you think that whatever happened with Tyreek Stevenson, I think that it would have been a lot worse if Jaylen Carter had been on the team. And that's not to say that he's a bad guy, but that's a volatile player. You need a lot of veteran leadership. That's something the Bears have not had for quite some time. Excuse me. And so for me, I will look at that incident and I will say, yeah, the Eagles did win with him, and that's fine. And I'm not taking that away from him. Not saying he's a bad guy. That situation, though, this is why it never would have worked out with him if he had joined the Chicago Bears. It would have derailed like this. And I think last night illustrated that. But you know what? We don't need to worry about that anymore. We've got our own team. We've got a game coming up Monday. We're going to be taking a look at it right after Sammy starts the show.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast with Adam Rank.
It's Hester trying to work it back to the middle. Gets past the first wave, and here he goes. It's Hester inside the 30. Hester's going to take it all the way for a touchdown. And no flag, 92 yards.
The sickest Chicago Bears and fantasy football podcast. Sports entertainment like no other. It's gonna be sick.
Welcome to the weekend edition of the Sick Podcast with Adam Rank, and we're going to be talking about the Bears' upcoming matchup with the Minnesota Vikings here on Monday. Going to be a great big Monday, and one of the cool things is we get to sit here and watch all the other teams battle it out on Sunday. We get to watch that marquee matchup between the Green Bay Packers and the Detroit Lions going after it. One of those teams is going to lose. Barring a tie, which is it happens in the NFL. Barring a tie, one of those franchises is going to lose, and it's going to be a great delight. And of course, thinking of the Lions, we think about Ben Johnson, and during his tenure with the Detroit Lions, how prolific this offense was under him. He was the offensive coordinator from 2022 to 2024. Over those 3 seasons, Jared Goff averaged right around 12 wins and 32 touchdown passes in each of those 3 seasons. The Lions led the NFL with a team record 33.2 points per game in 2024. That was the most in a season since the 2019 Baltimore Ravens. The Bears, in contrast, averaged less than 19 points per game. They averaged less than 300 yards per game. The points per game was 28th in the NFL. The yards per game were last in the NFL. Goodness gracious. The Lions scored at least 450 points in each of Ben Johnson's 3 seasons as the offensive coordinators. So if you think about that, and I know it's a 17-game season now. We can all agree that the Lions offense was very prolific when Ben Johnson was the offensive coordinator. The Bears have scored over 450 points in a season once in their history. And I want you to guess what season it was. What season do you think it was? It was actually, yes, it was the 1985, excuse me. How do I get that number wrong? The 1985 Chicago Bears, and once they won Super Bowl 20. That anniversary is looming. Like, we could talk about that. I know it's the 2025 season. Like, that is, it's going to be there. We're going to be talking about that in January. Like, hey, this is, 40 years since Super Bowl 20 and all that good stuff. You know what? The last time, though, I was thinking about this too. So Ben Johnson comes over. He directs the number 1 offense in all of football. The last time this happened, and this should help people feel a little bit better about themselves. The last time this happened was when Kyle Shanahan left the Atlanta Falcons as the number one offense. And then he went to San Francisco. And if I'm thinking about this correctly, Kyle Shanahan has done pretty well for the 49ers. We hope that Ben Johnson has some similar type success with the Chicago Bears. I mean, obviously, you would want them to win a Super Bowl. I'm not disrespecting the 49ers by any stretch of the imagination when I say that. But, you still want to win the Super Bowl. That's a big thing. But Ben Johnson did speak to reporters this week. We grabbed the video or the audio from our friends at the Chicago Bears. Sammy, why don't we go ahead and roll the sound from Ben Johnson?
Operationally with Caleb, how would you characterize specifically where you saw growth from the spring to where he is now?
There was, there's a lot of new from the play call, the verbiage, the cadence, the motions. There was a ton of new. So it was just getting a little bit more in tune with what we were looking for, the tempo with which we want to play. We haven't, shied away from the fact that it was going to take some reps and some time, and so that's what we had. And I thought once we got all the installs in over the course of the summer, things started to slow down a little bit for him, and we were able to play more with the tempo that we were looking for. So it's a weapon that we're going to use is the cadence, the motions, the shifts. I think this day and age football, I think it's a huge advantage for the offense when we can use that to attack the defense. And so he's done a nice job being able to digest that, and we're trying to find that right balancing act for a young player that's still learning some new concepts, how much operationally we want to put on his plate.
Yeah, what he's saying right there is that, they're going to go out there over the next couple of days of practice. And obviously the Friday practice is not the same as your typical Friday practice. The Bears will practice on Monday, have the walkthrough on Sunday before, of course, being ready to play on Monday Night Football. And I think what Ben Johnson is alluding to, or what he's basically saying, is that they're going to go out there and figure out what Caleb is going to be able to absorb and perform on Monday. And I think for a lot of us, as we look at here, and I again, when you think about the NFL and you think about, hey, why doesn't he learn everything? This isn't like playing Madden. This isn't one of those situations where you're like, oh yeah, absolutely. Like you're going to go out there, you're going to get everything dialed in immediately. You're going to go out there and it's going to take some time. And I think what they need to do is make sure that Caleb is comfortable with everything that is going on. That is the one thing. Like what can you process? What can you do? It's kind of like learning a golf swing or anything like that. And as a matter of fact, when you go through something like Golf Tech, which I've been doing, like they do not throw the whole kitchen sink at you, and everything is a process, and everything is like, okay, they will go in and they will diagnose what is wrong. Like they probably watch my golf swing. It was like, there's a ton of things going wrong here. We're going to start with the most simplest things and work our way up. And that's exactly what the Bears have been doing with Caleb Williams as they watch him perform, however they see, with everything of him in practice, they go out there and like, okay, we're not going to try to attack everything all at once. We're going to try to just work on some small things. And I think that, when you look at the matchup this week against the Minnesota Vikings last year, the Vikings really tried to get after Caleb Williams. They really tried to get after Caleb Williams on the blitz, and we're going after him and trying to rattle him. When he was under pressure by the blitz last year by the Minnesota Vikings, he was at his most effective. His passer rating, his quarterback rating was above 90. He wasn't turning the ball over. He was getting rid of the ball. Caleb Williams can respond to those kind of things. So it'll be interesting to see how the chess match plays off between these two teams, because what we've seen over the last number of years is whenever Ben Johnson gets an opportunity to go up against Brian Flores, and Brian Flores is this widely regarded, highly esteemed defensive coordinator, but yet at the same time, have we seen it yet? Have we really seen it? I mean, obviously the Vikings were good last year, got bounced pretty early in the playoffs, but I don't know. And this is the thing, like when Brian Flores took over as head coach of the Miami Dolphins, one of the first things he did was get rid of Ben Johnson, and Ben Johnson has not forgotten that. So when you look at what the Lions have been able to do against Brian Flores over the last number of years, it's been very, very prolific. And of course, some of you, people also say like, wow, that the Lions had Jared Goff. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. The Lions had Jared Goff. And this is no disrespect. That was a little disrespectful to Jared Goff. I mean, as good as Jared Goff is, or how good people think he is, he's been to a Super Bowl, but has he ever won a Super Bowl? No. There is something about being a champ and not being a champ. And when you're a champ, listen to me. I know something about championships because I play fantasy football. And I want to let you all know right now that fantasy football just got royal. That's right. We're talking about Crown Champs, which dropped the hottest thing that fantasy's ever seen, a real handcrafted premium championship crown. It's just $2.99 a month per person. Rack up points, win weekly challenges, get voted as King, Queen, Trash Talker, and unlock real life merch. And we need you to go to crownchampscompany.com. That's crownchampscompany.com for you to get involved, for an opportunity to get one of these handcrafted crowns. And not only crowns, they have robes, rings, scepters, all sorts of things. Fantasy football just got royal. Go to crownchampscompany.com. Use, let them know. I think it's rank 15 is the thing. Use my name. And you will get 15% off Crown Champs. Go check it out. I know a lot of you are bumming. You're extremely excited because you played Javonte Williams in your fantasy football league, or you started AJ Brown. Those are the only two options. No other thing. CeeDee Lamb was okay. Jalen Hurts was amazing. Oh, I keep talking up Jalen Hurts. And anybody who's followed me for a long time knows, and it's still on my Instagram page from way back when. There is a huge Jalen Hurts fan. Speaking of quarterbacks, I'm a fan of Caleb Williams, who has been under fire over the last, I don't know, depending on when you're listening to this. And I know this story is probably going to continue to circulate over the next couple of days and all that stuff. And listen, whenever you're listening to former coaches or people who are bitter or concerned or feel like they got a raw deal, of course they're going to speak out and they're going to go after Caleb and all that stuff. I honestly, whatever happened last season is last season. And I'm sure that when you listen to because Caleb's point of view is like, no coach ever talked to me. And now the coaches are coming out being like, he didn't work hard. Look, whatever. The truth might be somewhere in the middle, but I'll tell you what, right now, who cares? Because Ben Johnson's here. And if Ben Johnson at some point realizes that Caleb Williams is not the guy, then that's it. Then he's probably not going to be here. However, from what it sounds like, from we're listening to these quotes, we're listening to these guys at the podium, sounds like everybody is on the same page right now. As a matter of fact, Caleb Williams met with the media earlier this week. Sammy, let's go ahead and roll that clip.
Everybody? Good to see everybody. How are you? Good. Game week, man.
Yeah. There's been a message echoed for months about the importance of you being a distributor in this offense. How do you describe sort of the proper mindset you need to be in with that goal in mind?
Yeah, I think the proper mindset is just that. There's no big plays that need to be necessarily made. We need to go out there and do our job. We need to run our routes at the right depth. We need to be able to, hold up in, protection and things like that. And I need to be able to deliver the ball, whether it's under pressure or not. Other than that, getting the ball in my hands and allowing our guys to be able to go out there and make plays and be special, which they are.
And that's what I like to hear. Caleb Williams still calm, cool, collective. He just oozes confidence. And when you see it and you watch it on the tape, and I know it's something that Draft Dr. Phil has said not only on his own shows, but said here with us, is that, there have not been a lot of great quarterback prospects, or none greater over the last decade who have come into the NFL than Caleb Williams. And I think you could look at guys like Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence and all those guys who come in. I think somebody with the highest pedigree and the highest ceiling for talent, I think it is going to be Caleb Williams. And I understand, again, there are going to be people talking about him no matter what. And I know people are going to go out there and sell books and newsletters and all other sorts of things, and they're going to go after the kid, and it's fine. That's exactly what happens. It's what we were talking about the other day with Amon-Ra St. Brown. Amon-Ra St. Brown went on his own podcast, and it's understandable. Amon-Ra St. Brown and Caleb Williams are USC guys. However, Amon-Ra St. Brown was always saying, look, There is no quarterback in this league who is under more scrutiny than Caleb Williams. Nobody's move is watched more than Caleb Williams. And that's just the truth. There's nothing about it. Like you think about Lamar, think about Jaylen, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, all of these guys, Patrick Mahomes. Nobody gets scrutinized. Nobody goes through the day-to-day scrutiny like Caleb Williams does. When you talk about Josh Allen, or even Lamar, where they're like, they haven't won the big one. They don't go through it every week. Like people don't bring this up every week or every day. No, they kind of get like, people say their things. People get a little wind of their jaw, and that's fine. But Caleb Williams gets the most unnecessary hate, for lack of a better term, than any quarterback in the NFL. And it's not even close. It's not a close contest whatsoever. It's a runaway. It's a blowout. It's TCU versus North Carolina. It is that big of a blowout. And it's just one of those things. It's one of those things that makes you want to sit down at the end of the day and be like, you know what? I just need a drink. I just need to go down and relax with a drink. I need to get sorted. And speaking of which, where are you going to be watching games this season, Chicago? Let me ask you that question again. Where is this place to watch games this season? Because I love the Twisted Shamrock. Listen, if you're a real Chicago sports fan, and I'm talking about Bears, Bulls, Cubs, White Sox, Blackhawks, Sky, Fire, what have you. If you are a real fan of Chicago sports, you will make your way down to the Twisted Shamrock. It is the place for game day. They live for game day. Monster TVs. They got their own private room. They have a main bar with a giant screen. Patio season is in full effect. And not only that, they got bucket specials. They got drink specials. They got rowdy fans. They've got the best atmosphere of any place in Chicago. And ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you one thing right now. They have the best old-fashioned in the entirety of the Midwest. The entirety of the Midwest. So make your way down to the Twisted Shamrock. Go order a drink. Let them know Adam Rank sent you, and you will not be disappointed. All right. Thanks again to our friends at Twisted Shamrock. My friend and I were talking about it today while we were playing golf. Like, we got to make a trip. I'm circling in on a date to go out there and to visit. Not only I'll land in Chicago, I'll land at Midway. I will make my way over to the Twisted Shamrock, and we'll start throwing down some drinks and having a good time. All right. One of the things, though, that makes me optimistic about the Bears this season is the players that they're surrounding Caleb Williams with. And one of the biggest acquisitions during the offseason to me was Joe Thuney. Now, obviously, there was another Chiefs offensive lineman that everybody was running around during Super Bowl week, trying to pitch, coming to the Chicago Bears. But instead, the Bears were able to land Joe Thuney, which to me, I think is a really good get. And I think having a left guard who's going to be playing with an inexperienced player this season, and I know Braxton Jones has started some games, but regardless of whether it ends up being for the long term, Braxton Jones, Ozzie, Trapillo, Kaman Amagaji, it doesn't matter. Joe Thuney is going to be one of the anchors on that offensive line. And recently, he was mic'd up, and he was talking about what it takes to be a winner. Sammy, let's roll the tape.
Says we want to win, we want to win now. He's not shying away from it publicly. Have players come up to you? Have guys said, hey, how do we win?
Yeah, I think it's really just, when you have a group of men who are just focused on winning above all else, that personal things don't matter. All that matters is the group effort, and everyone's pulling in that same direction. There's no, bickering or fighting. It's everyone for the team, what's best for the team. And, when you get a big group of people like that, all working in the same direction, special things can happen. And it's not easy, and there's bumps along the road, but I think Coach Johnson instilled in us, this right mindset of working together, overcoming obstacles, regardless of the ups and downs. And, you put that in and day out, and I think special things can happen.
God, I love having Joe Thuney in this lineup and on this team. And finally, today, let's talk a moment about the Minnesota Vikings, a team that, I actually don't hate. I don't have a lot of malice for the Minnesota Vikings. In fact, I like a lot of their players. I like Justin Jefferson. I like Jordan Mason. I like Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones, I actually really like, despite the fact that he was once a Green Bay Packer. Harrison, no, don't like him. But in any event, I do want to talk about J.J. McCarthy, because J.J. McCarthy, who, if you follow me on the fantasy spaces, he is a player that I'm really bullish on this season. I truly believe that J.J. McCarthy is going to have a great, what is essentially a rookie season, even though he is a second-year quarterback. I feel that J.J. McCarthy is going to be excellent. As a matter of fact, there are some people who believe that J.J. McCarthy was actually the second quarterback on the Bears draft board last year, which is still a point of contention for J.J. McCarthy. He was asked recently, because now some photos have surfaced of him wearing Bears gear as a child. They're like, hey, you were a Bears fan. What did you think about the Bears not drafting you? J.J. McCarthy had this to say, and this we took from the social media. He's like, hey, look, I grew up a Bears fan. It broke my heart to see my team pass on me for a different quarterback. Ohio State did something similar. Ask them how that turned out. You know what, J.J. McCarthy? I love that kind of attitude. And as a fellow Bears fan, I appreciate the sentiment. I would have been upset too. I'm curious, though, like how upset J.J. McCarthy was. Like, I like that he's playing it like, hey, they passed me up. They passed me over to go with Caleb Williams. Of course they did. Everybody was going to. A lot of teams passed you over, J.J. McCarthy. You were what, the fourth quarterback off the board that season? Fifth quarterback? Did he go before Bo Nix? Yeah, it doesn't matter. If you think about this, oh yeah, because I think Denver deked the Vikings to move up, and they still got the guy that they wanted. But I love that. I love that that J.J. McCarthy was putting it in that sense. I want J.J. McCarthy to have that kind of fire, to have that kind of passion. And I hope it's one of the things that makes this rivalry great over the next decade is J.J. McCarthy being the former Bears fan that is sit there and try to make them pay for it. I will let him know that Josh Rosen said something similar when he was drafted by the Arizona Cardinals. Ask Josh Rosen how that I truly do believe that J.J. McCarthy's better. He's a better, I think he's a better product. I think he's a more serious football player than Josh Rosen. I don't even know if Josh Rosen's still backing people up. I mean, Zach Wilson's still backing people up. Where's Josh Rosen these days? Am I not thinking of this correctly? I don't know. In any event, time now to make a prediction on the final score of this game. And for me, you know, we talked about this Wednesday night with Greg Braggs. One of the nights we were sitting there with Greg and we're like, you know what? Like, this feels as close to a must-win game as it could be in week one of the NFL season. There is no way, with all the hype, with all the circumstance, with everything that is going on, if the Bears do not go out and beat the Minnesota Vikings, who will have J.J. McCarthy making his first start of his NFL career, then something is absolutely wrong with this franchise. I will be despondent. So I'm going to take the Chicago Bears in this one. Not a shock. I am taking the Chicago Bears. I don't know what the total was that I had on the NFL.com stuff. So whatever you see, you know what? I'll say 24-22. Give me the Chicago Bears in this one. Hey, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. We will be back on Tuesday with Just Another Year Chicago Bears. We'll be talking with Nick, breaking down this. Oh, no, wait, hold on. We'll be on after the game on Monday night. What am I saying? So there'll be no Fantasy Island on Monday night. You know what? Watch the NFL Fantasy Live show. Watch that show. You'll get all sorted with all your fantasy information and all that good stuff. But we will be back Monday evening after the Chicago Bears whoop the Minnesota. God, if they don't beat the Minnesota Vikings, I don't know what we're going to be. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know. I'm assuming I'll be here if we don't beat the Minnesota Vikings, but we'll be back on Monday night breaking down this Bears game. Thank you very much for being here. And Sammy, go ahead and play us out.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Adam Rank on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.